Welcome to Love and Lattes, the podcast designed for women who are ready to stop settling and start living a life full of authentic love, confidence, and real connection. I'm your host, Victoria, the self-love scientist, speaker, and coach, and I'm here to help you reclaim your power, deepen your relationships, and fall unapologetically in love with yourself. So grab your tea, your latte, or your favorite beverage, and let's get started. 2. Have you ever wondered how cultivating self-pleasure can actually deepen your intimacy? Or have you considered what is pleasure and what does that look like? Does that make you a better lover? And how can couples navigate differences in sexual desire without shame? Well, my loves, today I am so thrilled to welcome Rosie Rees, founder of Yoni Pleasure Palace, an e-commerce store, community, and movement dedicated to helping women explore sexual pleasure, empowerment, and self-awareness. Rosie has guided countless individuals and couples toward deeper connection and confidence. And today she will be here with me sharing her insights, tips, and stories to help us all embrace pleasure as a path to stronger and more fulfilling relationships. Hi, Rosie. Welcome.
Hi, Victoria. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. I'm so stoked. We were chatting earlier how I've been a huge follower slash fan slash anything else you want to contribute, how you consider it for Yoni Pleasure Palace. We will use Yoni Pleasure Palace. If you hear us saying YPP, that's what we're referring to. But I have been a huge fan in my own personal journey when it came to honestly navigating, reconnecting with myself. And when I first heard the word pleasure, I was like, what does that even mean? And I never realized that I could experience that as a woman. And so just to kind of kick things off, I feel like people hear the word pleasure a lot, and there's a lot of uncomfortable energy towards that. So how would you describe what pleasure means?
Oh, pleasure's so different for every person, every individual. For me, pleasure isn't just sexual. I think that's what our society really paints it as, that it's this sexual thing and it's something that's shameful or dirty or just for privacy or just when you're married or whatever it might be. But pleasure for me, it feels like joy in my body. You
Mm,
know, it feels like a spiritual practice. I see my pleasure practice, my self-pleasure practice as a spiritual practice with myself. Like sometimes I even say to my partner, my wife, Ash, I say, babe, I just need to go on self-pleasure because it literally just brings me back into my body. That's what it is. It's a body-based spiritual and physical practice that reconnects you and plugs you back in to so many things, your power, your presence, your femininity, sometimes your creativity. It's so broad, but for me, it's a very sacred practice.
mm, I love that. I think that's a really great way of looking at it. I remember starting off the conversation in the past telling people about pleasure, and immediately it was taken as like, very sexual, a little shame there. And I was like, no, but this is such a beautiful experience. Like, think about like an embrace for your inner soul and your energy. And it really does, like, you can cultivate so much. And it's, aside from reaching orgasm, it's this like elevation in your entire being. So I love that you shared that.
Yeah, absolutely. It can take us to different states and different, experiences in our psyche. But it's also a beautiful release sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
yes, it's nice to have not goal-oriented intimacy with yourself, but it's when you are having orgasmic experiences, it's a release for our body. I feel like that's why we've been given, something like the organ of the clitoris. It's one sole purpose is pleasure. And even though I feel like our whole body is an erogenous zone, I often, explain that like every part of your body can feel pleasurable if you bring ultimate presence and gentleness and softness and awareness to it.
That's a really good way of looking at it. And I like that you mentioned the erogenous zones. I think a while back, I remember even just starting with getting to know like your own yoni, getting in touch there. And that can be a very sensitive and heightening experience. But then being present, like you said, like touching your inner arms or around your knees and then hips and the bones. And you do make a really good point, especially when it comes to being present, because I think it can be easy for us, like, oh, I have the toys, I have the loop, I have the playlist, let me just get there. And I'm like, no, please hear me out.
Exactly. I feel like so often we just go straight to the clit, and obviously that's the part of the body that has the most nerve endings. However, we bypass the rest of our body. And I always ask my clients and especially couples as well to start from the top down. Like start with eye gazing, start with kissing, start with breast play, massage the belly, the vulva, then go to the clit and beyond. Because yeah, it's often pleasure so localized. And even when we're self-pleasuring, it's like you just use your vibrator and go straight to the clit and just get off and get what you need. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love having a quickie with myself sometimes. But like we also need to include the rest of our body.
I think that's a really good reminder, and I'm also going to use that in the future. Like, excuse me, I'm going to go have a quickie with myself. Um,
Why not?
you did make a really good point, though. When a woman starts her own self-pleasure journey, I feel that there could be a lot of feelings that come up, especially feeling nervous or shame. So, what would you suggest someone who's starting, or if they're listening, they're like, oh, I don't know if I could, even give myself permission to do that. What would you tell our listeners?
Baby steps. I
Mm.
just started recording a course that will be for beginners who are completely new to self-pleasure and connecting with their body in this way. And the first few tutorials are just simply on yoni awareness. So, just bringing awareness to this space in the body, a space that has typically been shamed and taboo and just stigmatized. And often, like a lot of women, particularly women who've had a very religious upbringing, I was brought up very Catholic. You kind of have this inbuilt shame around this part of your body, so you disconnect from the belly button down, and some women disconnect from the kind of from the chest down. So simply bringing your mental awareness to your pussy is groundbreaking for some people and a beautiful place to start. I feel like a lot of us go straight to, oh, I've just got to have an orgasm with myself. It's like, no, no, no. Start a few steps back. And then another beautiful practice is, yoni cupping. So cupping your vulva, and just connecting physically with that space, without having that something to achieve and something to get out of the practice. It's more about being rather than doing. And at the moment, over the past 12 months, I've released a lot of one-off audio subconscious rewiring, and they've just gone completely off, which is great with my community. They love me speaking through these things in audios that they can just put in their ears anytime. And I think starting with audios that, you can lead yourself at your own pace and, there's no rush. I think when we rush it, that's when we kind of force pleasure, and pleasure can't be forced. As soon as you feel rushed or forced or any pressure or expectation, not only does your orgasm disappear, but you shut down, you close down. And so, really, self pleasure and connecting with your own yoni, and yoni just means pussy and so sacred space, is, it's really just a part of a process of including that part into the rest of your body. Because so often we've just been told to not include it, not embrace it, not touch it, not feel it, not talk about it. And I'm just here telling you, let's not do that. Let's do the opposite of that.
Yeah, I think and again, like right before we hit record, even in my own journey, like it's easy for us to kind of turn off those parts and it doesn't, we never realize the amount of pleasure or even reconnection we have by taking those same steps of like being very slow, even if it's just self-massaging the arms and then making your way down. I love that you mentioned the cupping. I think that's a beautiful way to ease into it, especially when it feels really hard, really heavy. And then for women to, we all want an orgasm. I get it. I hear it and I want that for everybody. However, I would rather you be intentional, slow, and get the best one versus going in. We love a quickie, but not all the time.
A release is nice, and there's definitely nothing wrong with a genital sneeze, but I feel like, and something that I often sort of give my clients homework is just once a week, put aside 30 minutes to an hour to self-pleasure. And that doesn't mean you have to touch your genitals, but to just give yourself sensual pleasure. So that might be having a bath. That might be, for me, I just love getting on my hands and knees, putting on some erotic music and listening to an audio or doing my own kind of pussy toning practice. Or just like touching my body, massaging my breast, massaging my vulva. It could lead to internal penetration, it might not. Often it's a way for me to release as well. If I've been holding on to stuff, if I'm busy, if I'm stressed, it's actually an emotional release for me as well.
Oh no, I agree with you. That was part of this whole new year. I even wrote in my journal and I look at it from time to time. I'm like, did I schedule a pleasure practice this week? Because
Yeah, we
again,
forget. We just avoid it and we forget about it.
and you're right though, there is a release there, but also we carry so much. Like unintentionally sometimes, but if it's drama or pressures for, working or any other hats you're wearing, or for me recently it was, change in relationships. And it's like I need to like sit down and process, but also my body needs this as well.
We'll be back after a quick break.
I've been thinking a lot about patterns lately, especially the ones that show up in our relationships. For a long time, mine looked like overgiving, people pleasing, and convincing myself that if I shrink myself down just a little bit smaller, I would be enough. But knowing a pattern and actually breaking it are two very different things. And trying to untangle that alone can feel overwhelming. That's where therapy can help. Having outside support can help you recognize your patterns without judgment and make choices that actually support you. And that's why I'm grateful for today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp makes therapy more accessible by connecting you with a licensed therapist online so you can get the right support in a way that fits your life and your schedule. Love and Latte listeners can get 10% off their first month of therapy by going to betterhelp.com/love and lattes or by clicking the link in today's episode description. Breaking cycles isn't about fixing yourself, it's about learning to love yourself differently.
Your body, and I feel like when you do come to your body, your temple, with all the shit that you've been through in your day, your week, your year, and you just crumble a little and make some sounds and rotate your hips like in a serpent kind of way and just get into a bit of your feral energy and because your sensual energy isn't just pretty and sexy and like,
No, it's
on
messy.
porn. It's messy. She's fucking feral. She's loud. She's got something to say, through her body, through her voice, through her expression. And I feel like your sensuality and your sexuality is a beautiful gateway to expressing and releasing traumas, micro traumas, or just emotions that are stuck and stagnant in the body.
Oh, that's a really good leeway. I'm one of the questions I wanted to ask, and it might be like a two-part way. Aside from, like you said, we're releasing these emotions, these stuck feelings, or energies. When women start, when they begin their practice, even if it's with cupping, breathing, gentle touches, and eventually working their way to penetration or any form of pleasure, what can women not necessarily expect, because I feel like that always creates like this unnecessary rule book, but what are some things women might start to notice about themselves when we do integrate a welcoming, safe practice?
Mm, anything can come up. And
Mm.
when I say anything, I mean silence or numbness or nothing.
Mm.
Because if you've been pretty numbed out and disconnected for many, many years, you can't just expect your feminine, your sensuality just to switch on. She's not just going to perform, So I think knowing that that could be part of it, but also it might not look pretty. It may be angry and spiteful, and there could be rage if there's been times in your life when you've said yes, but you mean no. You've put other people's desires and needs above your own. You've had sex when you don't want to have sex with your partner, even if you're in a loving relationship, or you rush to keep them happy, or you people pleased in some way, or you cross your own fucking boundaries. All of that is, I believe, living in our pussies, in our pelvic bowl as stored memory. Our vaginas love to hold on to memories. And this is why I love the practice of yoni eggs. This is why I sell yoni eggs. I sell yoni toning practices, de-armoring wands, because sometimes the fingers, I also love to use your hands and fingers because, we can get feedback, instant feedback from that. But sometimes using a crystal or a glass wand to press gently into a pocket or a space inside the vagina, it might not make any sense, like why your body quivers, or maybe you start crying, or maybe there's like a like a growl that wants to come out. But I truly believe that's those micro traumas that do build up, and they come out through breath, sound, movement, and touch in the body, those embodiment gateways. But if we don't give our body those gateways and those chances to release and express, then they're just going to build up, and that's going to affect your libido, that's going to affect your orgasm, and that'll affect your relationship inevitably.
Yes, and that's exactly something else I wanted to highlight. When we don't allow ourselves the time to pleasure, I feel like we're definitely seeing people, or women especially, feeling stuck in not just their relationships, but this feeling of, they're tired. We're tired. I have low sense of worth. I have, do you notice those patterns even in your clients, if you're open to sharing that? Like it's just something where without having a pleasure practice, without having this connection, without really knowing like what turns you on, I feel like we can find ourselves probably in the wrong place, feeling stuck. I mean, I myself would share like I didn't know about pleasure till about probably 2020 maybe. And then when I learned about orgasm, like all on my own, I was like, this is mind-boggling. And I'm not even like, I'm almost like 30. Now I'm like beyond. But in that moment, just that having that integrated practice has completely shifted my timeline.
Mm. Isn't it crazy that we're not taught about our
Oh
body?
my God, yes.
Don't get me started on that. That's another conversation. But when it comes down to worthiness, if a woman doesn't feel worthy or deserving of pleasure, oftentimes they won't prioritize their pleasure. And they'll just, if they have sex with their partner, they'll just have sex for their
Mm.
partner's pleasure. They'll just put their own needs to the side. And yeah, this is a epidemic, unfortunately. This is what I'm so passionate about, is getting women to realize that it isn't just about having sex and having an orgasm. It's actually your power, and it's a portal to life force energy. It's a portal to aliveness and to your own creativity. If I feel stuck and a bit grumpy and just like, ugh, what am I doing? I'll take it to the bedroom, and I'll usually bring along one of my favorite crystal wands, and I'll put on some music, I'll light a candle, I'll set an intention, I'll get woo-woo with myself. And it's for me, it's just a practice that I wish every woman had in her tool belt, as a way of just being an emotional, spiritual human with it, with a practice to go to really heal and clear anything that doesn't serve them.
Mm, I love that. And you're absolutely right. Whenever I feel it's it doesn't I'll eventually realize like, oh, I'm disconnected. But before even that, I'm like, God, I'm so tired. I feel fatigued and nothing's coming through. And then I realize I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to go do this. It's very rare if I'm like I go in and I'm like feeling feral and angry, but most of the time it's, I am feeling this lower level of energy. I'm like, oh my gosh, when was the last time I did this? I will have to say shout out, and I will put this in the show notes, but I use a yoni egg. I've been using yoni eggs for many years, and a daily practice of like 15 to 20 minutes really shifts the energy of my day. So I definitely love that, if you also relate to the fact that like when things feel low, it's time to reconnect.
Yeah, and that's a really beautiful example as well. You don't have to just go and masturbate. You can actually just go and put a yoni egg in or cup your vulva and do a meditation for 5 minutes. Like you don't have to be going into a masturbation practice. And I also just want to say, if you're in a relationship, self-pleasure is still important. I think a lot of couples forget and actually don't even broach the topic about masturbation. And it becomes a bit hush hush and a bit secretive and almost like, oh, if you're in a relationship, you shouldn't need to self-pleasure. But it's just as important when I share with my wife, hey, I just need to go and self-pleasure and reconnect with, because for me, it is about reconnecting not just to my pussy, but to my body and my mind, my soul. I think that needs to be normalized as well. And even like come out with it and tell your partner, like, I'd really love to just self-pleasure with myself this afternoon or tonight. Not is that okay? Because it's you don't need permission from anyone. But I think it would be nice to start to normalize that conversation with your partner.
Absolutely. I do find, and let me know what your thoughts are on this, but when you do implement a pleasure practice, like your own self pleasure practice, it can also enhance, and it has given me confidence to bring up that same conversation, but also the awareness of what does feel good. So when I am with someone, you can answer that question more confidently when they say, what do you enjoy? What do you like? Because the other end of that, and I was there once when I came out of a marriage and I was finally comfortable going out with someone. And the first thing they said to me was, well, what do you like? And I could not answer that question. I was like, I don't even know.
Let's find out together.
Yeah.
But exactly right. If you don't know what you like, and I know that's so cliche, and you probably everyone's heard that before, but you got to know what you like so that you can teach your partner. But it's very true. If you don't know how you like to be touched or licked or sucked or fucked, honestly, like how are you meant to explain that to a partner? I do also believe that the way you self-pleasure and reach climax with yourself is actually very different to the way you reach climax with a partner. Like with myself, I can get myself off in 30 seconds if I want to. It's easy. It's I know obviously I like to draw that out a little bit more. I love longer sessions, but if I really want to get myself off, it's very effective. With a partner, there are layers of sometimes a bit of resistance. Maybe there's some emotional blocks. Maybe that thing that they did last week really pissed you off and you're still holding on to it. Or maybe you're just up in your mind and you're wondering what your partner's thinking and what does my pussy smell like and does it feel good? Am I wet enough? And like you could just really go over a lot of things in your mind, and that can really shift and change, how you have a climatic orgasm. So we can't just copy and paste what we do with ourselves, with our partner. It is going to look different. It is going to feel different. And so we do need to be open and flexible. And I posted about this the other week. It's called the I can do it myself syndrome it comes
Mm.
to clitgasms, and I was having a sister circle inside my Golden Yoni membership, and it was just about the clitoris, and we're all talking about how we discovered our clit, how we have a clit orgasm with ourselves, and then when the conversation came to having a clitgasm with a partner, I would say 9 out of 10 women said, "Oh, I just do it myself." And my jaw, maybe it's because I'm with a female, which it's a little different. Like they don't have that, a penis to want to penetrate because obviously you can get quite turned on and that kind of thing. But like, I think it just shocked me that so many women take their pleasure into their own hands and don't let their partner pleasure them. They don't let go. They don't allow themselves to be vulnerable enough to explain and to teach and to share with their partner, like, this is what I need. I need you to go softer here, or I need you to suck this, or I need you to lick or flick it this way, and I need fingers at the same time, and I need it to be really consistent, and et cetera, et cetera. So it is about being super courageous and super vulnerable and sharing with your partner what you do need. Otherwise, you're going to fake it, or you
Mm,
might just take over and do it yourself, which is so fine. But at the same time, that's part of the enjoyment of being a woman is like just letting go and receiving.
yes. Oh, I love that. And I do feel that when you do have the ability, and you're right, things are going to come up with someone else, and you could experience blocks, but allowing yourself to be pleasured to receive that, it's so good. It's so like I used to call it like cosmically shifting. Like you're going to make some changes in your vibration, and when you're with your partner and you just let yourself like allow yourself to receive and just even noticing, like allow yourself those sensations. And then eventually it'll build, right? So I find that it is so wonderful to create that trust, that having that conversation, but also that practice as well.
Definitely. Yeah.
It like had me laughing so hard when you said 9 out of 10 women. Oh my God, please don't fake anymore. If you're listening, stop.
Yeah, and even clients that I've been coaching have been lying to their partner for
Mm,
sometimes over 10 years
mm-mm.
about not being able to orgasm. And if you've been lying about it for that long, it's very hard to come out with the truth because obviously then you need to, it's not just about the fact that you're not orgasming because that's like a separate issue, but then it's like you've lied about it. So it is really important to just stay so honest, even if you're worried like how that's going to make your partner feel, because obviously your partner wants to please you. However, if you are not climaxing in whether that's internal or external, that can lead to them feeling rejected. But
Mm.
again, it's just about being in your power and knowing like just because you're not orgasming doesn't mean it's about them. It could be about you. And like you just need to be able to explain to them what you need and how you feel and what's coming up for you. Our sexuality is so complex. Having an orgasm can be so complex for some women. And we just need so much more patience and so much more time. It took me I think between 4 to 5 months to actually have an orgasm with my current partner, my wife. I was so, I had this belief that I could only have pleasure with a man. I never realized I could be in a relationship with a woman. It was kind of, it threw me when I fell in love with a woman. And I just couldn't let go. My brain was cock blocking me or pussy blocking me, so to speak. And I just got to the point, and all I needed them to say, Ash to say to me was, I'll be here as long as it takes.
Mm.
As soon as they said that to me, I literally came within the next 5 minutes because I felt like, oh, I can take my time. I can relax. They're not going anywhere. Women need to know that the person who's going down on them or fucking them or whatever it is not just going to pack up and leave because you haven't had an orgasm in 10 minutes. We need to know you're in it for the long haul. And it could take 30, 45, sometimes 60 minutes to really get there.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I have noticed those experiences myself where I used to think, oh, it has to be penetration and they have to know all the work, and being someone who I used to be so in my masculine years ago. And then when I one of my recent partners, I remember having the conversation because they were born with female genitalia, and being with them, like they asked me, like, have you ever been with someone like me before? And I was like, no. But having that conversation, create, and then talking about like, what do you like? And taking it so slow was so sensual, so beautiful, and everything just, it made our relationship better by having those conversations, and especially taking our time. Like we weren't jumping right into it. It was like, nope, this is different for both of us because it was different for him and different for me. And so I think, you know, I do find, and I'd love to hear your, because it sounds like you had the same experience. When you dip your foot into pleasure and really start integrating these different parts, you notice that your sexuality is quite like it's very fluidic. You're no longer in this box where for me, like my younger self, like if I were to sit down and be like, by the way, actually you love everyone and everyone is beautiful, in the right conversation. But I feel like I owe that a lot to being super vulnerable and opening myself up to pleasure.
Oh, absolutely. I wish I'd given myself permission in my 20s or even earlier than that to, I guess, own my sexuality and own my fluidity because I'm incredibly bisexual and I just had so much shame around that. And I think that if you can open your mind to what pleasure looks like, what sexuality looks like for you, it just everything shifts. And sometimes it's hard. Like I said, I always thought I needed a penis in order to feel pleasure. That's not the truth. I've been with my wife now for coming on 8 years, and I have great sex. So it's you don't need a penis in order to have
Yes. Yes, everybody deserves great sex. I absolutely love that. Like those are goals. But I have one last question before we kind of close out, but I feel, and you've said this before, couples can be navigating these different times. Interests are changing, people are changing. So what do you recommend to your own clients when they are exploring pleasure, how they can, how can this help their relationship? And what has helped you in your own relationship, keeping things exciting and fun? I think it's easy to kind of like you said, we copy and paste and just kind of mimic the same thing. But how would you encourage our listeners to kind of open their minds and watch this change not just their own relationship with self, but the most intimate relationships?
Yeah, I tend to support couples who are quite disconnected sexually, who've kind of stopped connecting sexually. They still love each other, they're still obsessed with each other. They don't want to leave each other, but the
Yeah.
sex has dried out and they're not being intimate. So generally, with couples that are just not feeling sexually compatible, there's layers of emotions and experiences that have kind of built up, kind of like a brick wall in front of them. And you do need to slowly tear down each of those walls. And talk therapy, talk coaching is phenomenal for that. So definitely, like for couples out there who aren't prioritizing their relationship and are feeling this, like just talk to a couples coach or counselor. It's life changing. Um, so for couples like this, it's really about going back to basics. Can I just say, like, we have put so much emphasis on P in V sex and intercourse and penetrative sex and intimacy in that way and genital focused sex. It's like, how can we come back to almost like you're dating each other again? For a recent couple that I'm coaching, they literally were just working and living and breathing. Like they weren't doing anything together. And so we found out, for them that they needed to go for a walk in nature together without their phones, without their devices, to just talk and just to hold hands and to be. And that was intimacy for them. Another couple, they realize that they actually don't have much sex at home. They don't like to connect at home because they've got kids and dogs and stuff. And so they would want to go away just for one night to an Airbnb or a hotel or something like that to be able to just let go and be a bit loud and connect in that way. Another couple, they needed to look into each other's eyes and actually start way back at the top. They were nowhere near ready for genital touch and sexual intimacy, but they just needed to rebuild some trust. And so I have a guided eye gazing, tantric eye gazing audio, and it's a 20-minute audio, and it just helps couples to look back into their partner's soul, really, and back into their eyes and rebuild that trust. If there's no emotional safety and vulnerability, you're never going to have sex. As I always say to all my clients, open heart, open pussy. If your heart is closed, your pussy is closed. We need to start up here, clear out the debris from our heart space, from our feeling center, And it's amazing when you have a really ridiculously honest conversation, sometimes quite brutal. There's a conversation guide that I have. I think it's free, or it might be $7 on my website. It's a 10 questions to ask your partner at the end of every week. So just scheduling in like a half an hour to go through these questions together. You can do them, live, real time, or you can go write them down and then come back together. But it's 10 really, really potent questions themed more around sex and intimacy because can I just say, a lot of couples avoid the conversation completely. It's so awkward for a lot of people. For me, it's like talking about the weather, but for a lot of couples,
Yeah.
it they can't bring it up. It's so uncomfortable because we haven't been able to from a young age. And so having a structure, having that eye gazing, having a 10 question format, creating that masculine structure for couples can actually feel really safe. So they're just a few things. I could keep going on, Victoria, but you get the gist. It's like start with those baby steps and eventually you'll get back to the source and you'll get back to that desire and that connection. But it is about putting in the hard yards and the effort, especially if you've been together for over 5 years.
Mm-mm. And no, that those were beautiful, and I really appreciate those nuggets. I think something else people need to remember, or maybe go back and listen to, like you said, open heart, open pussy. Period. I remember learning long ago in my yoga training how your throat was also connected to it. So if you're having a hard time speaking or feeling like you're being very quiet, she's going to be quiet too. So, like learning to open up that energy through singing, or if you're into chakras, like all the blues. But I love that you said open heart, open pussy. Oh my gosh, so good.
Yeah, doing some yoni, I call it yoni toning. So toning, making the sound of your yoni in a practice can feel really liberating and like relaxing through the jaw and the tongue and the teeth and that link and how when you do that there, it actually mirrors in your pelvic bowl and your pussy as well. So yeah, I love that you brought that up.
This is so beautiful. I have absolutely thrilled. I'm so thrilled you're here with me and we get to have this conversation because as you and I both know, it's not talked about enough, but it is our birthright to have a pleasure, to experience pleasure. And it really does make a difference in not just your most intimate relationships, but in your entire lifestyle. Like your perspectives are going to shift. You're going to get to know who you are in one of the most raw and vulnerable ways ever. So I'm so glad we got to have this conversation. Before we finish, is there any small things you'd love for our listeners to share before we wrap up the topics of pleasure?
Oh, I guess schedule it in with
Yes.
yourself. Just with yourself, the more you have sex with yourself, the more you want to have sex with your partner.
Mm,
And yeah, we don't often schedule sex with ourselves. So just pop in your diary, one-on-one time with self. Check
yeah.
out my course that's coming out very soon. It's the Yoni, the one for beginners. And yeah, just devote some time for your own sensual connection. Just see what comes up. But if you do need that guidance, don't be afraid to seek that out. I have so many resources and so many videos. The Golden Yoni membership is a portal for all of that. Like if you need hand holding, but if you just want to like sit in front of your mirror and lay down your splash blanket, get some lube, and just explore. Just have a look at your yoni, even do some yoni gazing, put on some music, and get connected because that is honestly when we are connected to that part of our body, we're more in our power, we're empowered, we're liberated, we're fierce, and gosh, we could do anything.
My gosh. Like, I know we're ending the conversation, but I was like, oh my God, we didn't even talk about squirting, but another time.
Food coming soon.
Your, your body is just, your body is such a, it is a temple. And I think we get so caught up in other things that I understand. Like, it's so easy to get caught up in everything else and leave yourself behind. But today we need to stop, even if that starts with scheduling. And I know people listening are like, that sounds silly. It works. It really does. So, and all my listeners, we're going to have all these resources. We're going to have links for Rosie on the show notes and definitely get yourself some toys and tools I'll link a code you can use in your checkout to save some time. And Rosie, thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm absolutely like, I adore you and I love your relationship and your family is so beautiful, but you are killing it in the pleasure space. Like I see you yin, YPP, the splash blanket. I've got mine in my closet.
Oh, thank you so much, Victoria. Thank you for having me. It's so great to be in LA as well, on your time zone, sort of. Um,
Yeah.
Connecting with you. Thank you so much for your time and, yeah, for shedding light on this really important topic of conversation.
Thank you, Rosie. And thank you everyone for tuning into another beautiful, warm conversation on love and lattes. And we'll see you in the next episode.